Welcome everyone to What's on Tap for the PSA Updates and Future Prospects. My name is Betsy Bin. I'm the Director of the Produce Safety Alliance, and I'm joined today by most of the PSA team. I don't know if anybody specific is missing, but I think most of us are here. So I'm just going to go with, I think most everybody's here. We're happy you could take the time to join us today. As you know, I think time is the most valuable asset we have, so we really appreciate you spending some of your time with us. All participants are muted. There will definitely be time for questions. We've got a break right in the middle to talk about questions and discussions, both in the meeting and at the end of the meeting. Feel free to use the chat box and we will answer questions as we go. This session is being recorded and we'll share it on the listserv after the call. So if a friend missed it and wants to hear it, they can join us there. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start off talking about PSA funding and impacts on outreach that we think you should anticipate. We're going to talk about some PSA team updates, what's happening with us that may play into some of these changes. We're also going to go over some harvest and post-harvest agricultural water resources, other new and upcoming resources, a reminder about the qualified exemption and how that changed during COVID and now after COVID. And we're also going to share the next PSA educators call, which will be in February. So we'll give you details on that. Also today, as I go, I'm going to present most of the slides today, but the team is here and I'm going to have them jump in because some of these things are definitely specialties of some of the folks on the call. So in terms of PSA funding updates, as you all hopefully are aware, PSA is currently fully funded until June 30 of 2024. Yes, that is a mere 5 months away. It is already, I'm going to look at my phone, January 29th. So we're talking just about 5 months left with the PSA funding. Good news is FDA released an RFA for a new 3-year PSA cooperative agreement in December. The upper limit of that cooperative agreement definitely would fund the PSA. The sort of bad news or challenging news is that in the first year of funding, the RFA only has $1 million. This is about a third of the level the PSA needs to be fully functional. So I don't know if any of you have a home budget, but if you got a third of what you needed, I'm guessing you would have some changes in your family budget. So we're going to talk about that. What this means is that things must change now. There's a real need to prioritize activities while we have the full team here. We need to complete projects that have been initiated by June 30, 2024, because if the team gets smaller, we won't be able to finish them otherwise. So what does that mean to us? Well, that means to us and to you in that we have these resources in development that we know are mostly or partially done and need shoved out the door. 4 peer-reviewed publications need to be submitted. We're updating a required records document. We are finalizing the translation of the more than words illustrations. We have fact sheets. The 2 that I listed here are the 2 that have been running around recently that are probably going to be finished pretty soon. Importance of taking a PSA grower training course and a certificate of conformance for municipal water or city water sources. These are just a few examples. This list is very long of fact sheets and documents that we have in the queue that take time to finish. And when we're doing trainings and organizing other things, we don't have the time to finish them. And for me, since we've already invested the time to initiate them and get them partially developed, we need to complete that effort and get them finished and tied up. And all of this has to happen by the end of June. In addition to the materials, we have a contract right now to do international training. And there's a string of commitments there that need to be completed. And we already have scheduled trainings, webinars, and meetings in the queue, right? So we have a Train the Trainer scheduled in February and in April. We have trainings scheduled with colleagues, and we already have things on our docket that need to be completed by the end of June. Initially, what I had hoped was 6 months of quiet. Well, that's not going to happen. but I want everybody to just have a heads up of the things that are in our queue to complete by the end of June, and why that's going to mean some changes to other things we're doing. There's also relevant team news to share. Tommy and Davis are on paternity leave until May of 2024. What that means for Cornell paternity leave is that's partial workload relief from their responsibilities so that they can be the attentive, fantastic fathers that we know they are. And we're super happy that our team has been blessed with babies, right? It's a great thing that our team has expanded in that way. So it's very important to us that we give them that time that they need with their families. Donna Clements is on partial medical leave, and anybody who knows Donna knows that she puts in the time when she's feeling up to it, but we also have to give her the priority of taking care of herself during this time, because that's the #1 priority. PSA is going to merge the Southwest and the Northwest extension positions into the Western Regional Extension Associate position. I can see Collins has his camera on. Collins Bujingo is going to serve as the Western Regional Extension Associate. The reason for that is that Thais left us at the end of the year. And another important part is that Collins has decided not to renew his contract with us that ends in June. And so neither of those positions will be filled. And again, that's related to funding and trying to make sure we're not overextended. This aligns with the regional center model, which is, I think, the good news about that. The concern is that the production of fruits and vegetables in the western part of this country is extreme. And so to have one Western Extension Associate is asking a lot of any human. Now, we are very fortunate. I can see Davis's face on my screen. Davis and Mariana are both located in the Western region. So that's good news. It means that we do have representation out there, but it is a significant hit to not be refilling those positions come June. So but that is something we will be doing in this year, and I'll continue to explain what's going to happen moving forward. So as we write the proposal for the FDA RFA, we're assessing what objectives are going to be possible after June 30 of 2024. The RFA, if you look at it, has a list of objectives, but without the funding and the personnel, all of them cannot be included or completed. Certainly not to the degree and expectation that I think everyone has come to expect from the Produce Safety Alliance. We are working with FDA to gather input about priorities. We are focusing on things that keep all the PSA trainings moving forward, with a priority on PSA grower trainings. Many of you on this call, I can look at who's on this call actually. I'm guessing many of you on this call are PSA trainers. And so our top priority will be to keep the things in place to support the trainers as much as we can, so that you all can continue to deliver high quality, accurate grower trainings, and to make sure that growers that need the trainings have access to them. All right, that's again, always #1 PSA priority, top quality, accurate PSA grower trainings. #2 priority, helping keep trainers informed and up to date as best we can, so that you all can do that job #1 as well as us. So again, keeping with those same priorities. So our #1 priority from July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025 will be to keep the team together. And the reason I say that is if the team dissolves, if all of these fine people whose cameras are on right now decide that they don't like this soft money, crazy world we live in, and they go get different jobs, the PSA is done. It does not matter if additional funding becomes available in the future or not. As you know, training somebody to be on the PSA team, or maybe you don't know, training somebody to be on the PSA team is a lot of work. And if they were all to leave at the same time, and I'm here by myself, I cannot do that by myself. The PSA has certainly become this group of people, and the expectations far exceed anything a person or two people can deliver. And so that's why in this next year, and this is a 1-year plan, we are going to try and keep the team together. So what we're doing to hopefully achieve that is applying for additional funding outside or in addition to that FDA funding. We've put in a multi-state specialty crop block grant. We're putting in some FSOPs that aren't bringing a lot of funding, but would bring some funding to support the team. We are only going to go with this process for a year. Grants just do not have enough to fund personnel. If any of you have written proposals recently, I am not telling you anything you do not know. I frankly think this is ambitious. I can't decide if I think we're crazy or not. I'm not sure it's going to work, but within the team, we've had the discussion, and I'm going to look to Mariana, who uses this word, I think, the best. We're all very passionate about what we're doing, and we think the PSA is worth trying to keep around. And so we collectively have had a lot of discussions about what is the right thing to do. And we've decided that this is the right thing to do. So that's what we're doing. And hopefully we're right, and hopefully it will all work out. The reality of this plan is that even if we can keep the team together, all the new proposals have new objectives. We have not overlapped with PSA objectives because we don't want to overlap federal dollars. This means that we're not going to be doing PSA objectives. So it's not a way to fund PSA activities. This is one way for us to stay together in hopes that full funding will be available in 2025. And that's all this is a dormant period, if you will, prior to our hopefully bloom in 2025. All right. What do we think about, what do we think this impact of PSA funding is going to be on you? And that, I think, is the most important thing, and certainly something we talk about. It is hard to know exactly at this point what we're doing because we're still working through the budget and we're still working through a few other things. One, we anticipate that registering courses with AFDL will remain the same, so no change there. If you're already cooking with fire and you're registering courses and delivering courses, you should be fine to keep on that path. The PSA lead trainer application process is very valuable because we want to make sure there are lead trainers available for courses. So we anticipate that will stay the same. We anticipate maintaining the website, but not adding fact sheets, probably limited amounts of updating of fact sheets and other resources that are there, depending on the personnel time that we can squeeze into the funding we have. We anticipate and plan to prioritize keeping the subsidy for the Spanish online PSA grower training course. We are piloting that again right now, and we want to launch it. And the deal is we did the English online PSA grower training course for several years at a subsidized rate. And in fairness to that, we want to keep that subsidy to the Spanish online PSA grower training course. So that's the plan right now, and that will go into the proposal that way. We suspect there will be a limited amount of train the trainer courses led by the PSA team. Now, keep in mind, there are TOTS outside of the PSA team. So there may be more trainings available, but the ones that are led by the PSA team will probably become more sparse. We're not sure about what we're going to do with the TOT evaluations. I suspect those will stay in place, but part of the TOT evaluation is that you co-train. So those two are linked if you know that process. Evaluation sharing should stay in place. I'm going to advocate hard for that because I think it's important that when you submit evaluations or the evaluations that are submitted for the courses you're leading, if you're a PSA trainer, I think it's important that you get that feedback. So there's going to be a priority put on making sure that loop continues. Reporting assistance or data sharing will probably be impacted. I don't think anybody recognizes how much time this particular part takes, mostly out of Michelle Humiston's time. So this one, I suspect will change somewhat. No educators calls. We will probably not have educators calls, or they will be much more spread out. I'm looking at you, Donna Paul Clements. I still call you by your maiden name. Donna Clements and I were having a discussion about this, and we view these as so important to our communication and to our networking. That's goal number 3 of the PSA, networking and keeping everybody on the same page. But they take a lot of time, and we spend a lot of time trying to get outside people to collaborate. So I don't know what'll happen with this one. Probably either go away or be very, very sparse. We probably will not have an ability to serve as PSA lead trainers for some operations. We do a lot of mentoring. We go and we do trainings with people. We probably will be able to do it if we can keep the staff, but you're going to have to cover their time and their travel. A lot of people cover the travel because we've had trouble over the years making salary. So the way we've done it is to move our travel into salary, and then people have paid for the travel. But it might get to the point where we can't do it without covering time as well. No Subpart E pre-harvest water updates or limited updates. Certainly no curriculum V2. That's going to be a heavy lift, and at the current budget, that's not going to happen. And probably no broad reaching update trainings. Okay, so when we had talked about the pre-harvest water release of Subpart E, our plan all along, the PSA team's plan all along, was that we would do a curriculum V2 update, and then we would create trainings for the trainers, right? So you knew what slides had changed, and then trainings for the over 90,000 people that have attended the grower trainings up until this point, right? And we have a plan for how we're going to do that. We can't execute that plan without personnel and time. So, so that will be put on the back burner until those funds arrive.
Hey, Betsy.
Right. Yep, go ahead.
I was going to say, before you open it up, there's been a couple of very good questions in the chat box I thought we could address in the Q&A. Great. So the first one is from Norman. Has PSA taken this funding shortfall to any key congressional players who would be supportive of increasing the $1 million amount? Did you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, so Norman, Donna and I have been to Capitol Hill multiple times. We've reached out to every organization that we think might support us that has lobbying arms that go to Capitol Hill. We have a fact sheet we can share with you that we hand out when we talk to congressional members. I will be honest and say, this isn't my strength area, and it's not what I am great at, but we have definitely put effort in, and we have definitely put time in. We are also happy if you have a congressional member that you think is good and you want to hook us up to them. We're happy to connect and have a meeting. Post-COVID, a lot of congressional offices are willing to do Zoom, but also willing to go to DC to meet them in their office if that would be helpful. If you let us know, we're happy to do that. If you have a connection to your congressional member, and again, you want some of those fact sheets, we can provide them to you. So just let us know that you need that information.
And then Norman,
Donna, do you want to add anything to that? You've been at these meetings. Okay.
No, I don't think so. I think what I've learned in going to a lot of these meetings is it's really making the personal connection and trying the personal connection that even though PSA is based at Cornell, which is in New York. It's really trying to show that we, with you all as collaborators, have that domestic and international outreach. So anything that makes, I think, a person in a representative's particular region, hearing from them is a lot more important than us kind of trying to state the cause. So I think that's really valuable.
I see another question from you, Norman, about Spanish training efforts in domestic as well as foreign. So right now, we do a little bit of both. We're funded predominantly to do those international trainings in Spanish, but as Davis has reminded me on more than one occasion, our Spanish language extension associates absolutely do outreach in Spanish throughout the country, and they do a lot of trainings. And I would extend that also as I'm looking at Collins, who is actually going to do a training not in Spanish, but with another language for some other farmers. So we use the skills we've been given to reach out to the farmers in whatever language we can provide things in for them. So hopefully both of those answer your questions.
And there was one more question in the Q&A. Betsy, I'll throw this one to you from Stephanie. Will the Western Regional Extension Associate position be filled after Collins leaves in June?
No. We will, okay. We will have internal conversations about how we're going to cover that. But that has not been discussed or decided. So there will likely be somebody who takes on the title of Western Regional Extension Associate, but it will not be a new warm body. It will be one of the warm bodies that is on this call. Has FDA indicated that they would take on the responsibility to cover subpart E training dissemination? No, I have no idea what FDA is planning to do, Chana. So the question is, has FDA indicated that they would take on the responsibility to cover subpart E training, curriculum development, dissemination in the event PSA is not given the funding to do so? Not to my knowledge. This has not been brought up in our executive calls either. Correct, Donna or Michelle, who's usually on those calls with me.
I think it's important to mention that FDA, I think, they're trying to find funds. This is sort of an active conversation with them. And I wanted to mention that in part because there was a question that Don answered, is after FDA providing funding to keep this important work afloat. And Don pointed out that the RFA that Betsy mentioned earlier is from FDA. So FDA is trying to find the funds. I think it's a conversation we're always having with them. I think it's just trying to find those funds to support the work.
Yeah, I think so. One of the things I mentioned, and I wasn't explicit about the amount in the RFA has a cap of 5 million, which is in that window of what we need, right? The budget we had asked for was about 3.6 million. And so the RFA has the amount. It's just that in this first year, there's only $1 million in that. It's possible more money could come, and if more money does come, then of course we will change. In the RFA, this is also important to say, in the RFA, one of the objectives is doing a rewrite of the curriculum. That is one of the objectives. It's just that we know from the development of the first time we did the curriculum, what goes into that and all the moving pieces. And if we can only get 20% of everybody's time, that's not going to be enough to get all those objectives done. Or 30%, right? And so we have to prioritize what is going to get done for that time. And keeping people employed. Other questions? I do think it's important to say that there's a lot going on in our country right now, in the sense of budgets and things that aren't getting done. So we're kind of, I think we're caught up in that as well, right? This isn't strictly a FDA does or does not want to do kind of question. There's a lot of other pieces and parts at play here. Okay. Seeing no more questions, we will move along. So we did want to share with you some of the training numbers. I'm not sure Michelle is fully done with the report, but she's got these numbers out to us. So I'm sure the full report will be out shortly. But you can see here again, all of these numbers are an indication of the greater collective, including all of the PSA trainers and lead trainers and TOTS. It's really marvelous to see that we've trained over 92,000 people globally. I love looking at this chart for both domestic and international trainings. Just absolutely fascinating to look at the number of trainers and lead trainers and the amount of effort that is done for this group of people. So for that, I just want to extend my thanks, as I know the team talks about this all the time, how fortunate we are to have the connections we have throughout the country and throughout the world of people delivering trainings and making those trainings available to growers. There's a lot of collaboration that goes into that, and we thank all of you for that effort.
And I also want to comment that we're not projecting into the future. That's based on December 31st, 2023.
Oh, that is my fault. You made me edit it, and I edited the silly year. That is my fault. That is 2024. Thank you, Donna. I can't believe I didn't catch that on the first pass through we did together. Yeah, it's definitely 2024. We also wanted to talk and remind everybody for the Subpart E compliance dates. As you will notice in this slide, like that first compliance date was actually last year, January 26, 2023, not a typo like the last slide. But that first year was educational inspections, right? So now they're into enforcement, and you can see it moves on to that small business class this year. And of course, then next year it'll be that very small business class, okay? And just want to remind everybody that that enforcement is happening. Should be interesting, should be some questions, might be getting some feedback from growers that you work with. In terms of resources, we have some harvest and post-harvest ag water resources related to the requirements during harvest and post-harvest. You can see them, they're on the website, and we have more coming. I want to talk about some of those things that we've got going on here. So we have we updated insights to get you organized with a focus on harvest and post-harvest water uses. I loved editing this one because it started out as like, we should edit this document, and it turned into, we are going to overhaul this document. And so it is it's a V2, but it's a very different V2. I do want to give a shout out to, I think I saw Connie is on the call. Back when Connie was with the PSA, we actually did the original version of this, and same with Gretchen. And I do want to thank both of them, because when we decided to overhaul it, we reached out to them as authors and said, hey, we're going to change this, but we want you to be in the loop. And they definitely provided some really good feedback and inputs. So again, I really appreciate that collaboration, but do want to point out that it is a very different document. So if you've read the old one and you think this one is just a little different, nope, it's very different. So you should take a look at it again. Don, do you want to add anything with that, because you led that effort? Nope.
No,
okay.
yeah, I think you covered it nicely. Thank you.
Okay. We also have an ag water systems inspection is different from the proposed agricultural water assessment. I'm even saying agua. This one was done because there seemed to be a lot of confusion about the ag water inspection only as a proposed thing. And so we really wanted to, again, separate those things. And so that was the difference. Again, Don, do you want to add anything in there?
Yeah, I think one of the other motivations was that people were confusing the two, and I think it's very important to know that the ag water system inspection is now required. And that's one of the key reasons for differentiating the two.
Very important point that I did not articulate. I think the other thing that's really interesting is the ag water systems inspection right now is required for harvest and post-harvest, but the pre-harvest will be added as soon as that rule comes out, right? So it's going to eventually incorporate all of them. Certainly when I've been talking with farmers, I've been telling them it's okay to do the whole thing now. It's just not required now, right? So that's a tiptoeing some of those issues with growers as well. Documentation requirements for water laboratory analysis results. Don, do you want to add anything in there? Okay.
Again, super important because of the no detect, which is now a required criterion for a required standard for post-harvest water.
Right. I know just this morning we were working on some changes to the required records document. Internally, we're having a debate about yanking some of the records that are in there. I'm just going to say that out loud. I haven't really talked to everybody about this, but because some of the required records are actually in regard to the pre-harvest water as it was originally written, and we suspect that will change. So expect to see changes to that document pretty much in the near future. That's one of the things we're working on. Anything else on this one? Anybody want to talk about before I move on? Okay. Oh, the EPA labeled sanitizers for produce. All right, so this tool was designed as a resource to help growers and those who support them review and select sanitizers based on their EPA label. The original one goes all the way back to 2017. Very highly accessed document on our website. I do believe it's the highest, it's the most accessed document on our website, so that's fantastic. It's been adapted to a resource into a web tool, which is much nicer. It was funded in part by the local food safety collaborative, one of their grants. We had a subcontract with it. I kind of want to let Donna jump in here and say her piece about this, because this has been an amazingly long journey. And on top of it, we were talking this morning on team meeting, really a team effort. Once we knew the changes that had to happen, a lot of folks on the team stepped up to do a lot of the work that needed to be done. So I do want to say most sincerely a thanks to the entire team for circling up on this one and making sure it got past the finish line. So Donna, take it away.
Yep. So I will note, I dropped the link into the chat box. I know it appears on the screen, but Betsy, can you actually go to the next slide? Because I'll use that to talk a little bit about some of the features. So I will say, consider this a soft launch. We are still working on finalizing the tutorial, recording that. And you can also expect a fact sheet from some of the lessons we learned about EPA labeling, which this tool has always been based on, versus product labeling. So when we were developing this, I think my famous last words were, oh, it shouldn't be that big of a lift. And now it's been like 6 months later, I think we've been trying to finalize it. But when we initially developed this tool, like Betsy said, the Excel sheet, I was constantly breaking it. I know some collaborators were, definitely had some limitations on its usability. And Rob, I think, is the first one that approached us about turning it into a web tool. So now instead of downloading it, you can access it on, a tablet, a phone. I don't recommend it works on a phone, but it's really, really tiny. And then also, of course, a computer. But we did focus group the draft of the tool, and there were a lot of lessons learned. But some of the highlights I wanted to mention here, using the screenshot you see at the bottom, we decided to add product labels, and I think there's going to be a future educators call on this, so I won't talk too much on it, but yes, we learned that only working off of EPA, the master label, had a lot of drawbacks, and the initial tool was really only based on that EPA label. So what we did was we added a product name label. So instead of working off of alternate brand names, it really focuses around that product name, and then we still have a column about the EPA master label and interpreting that. So we've tried to add functionality. We tried to make it a little bit simpler to use. So now we hyperlink. Anytime you see a hyperlink on that tool, it means that it's a clickable link and it will take you to whatever that column is about. So you can click to go directly to the products label or to that EPA master label. And then there's also a column that you don't see in this screenshot that you can be taken directly to the manufacturer or distributor contact information. If you have growers that have specific questions about, their states or particular uses. There's a search bar now, so you can really type any keyword. You can type in peroxyacetic acid, or you can type in a product name, and that's really what the search bar is. I tend to use that quite a lot. And then there's also a compare function, and I kind of compared this to like when you're picking out a credit card with the best travel deals or something. Usually you can, you can click and then you select compare, and it'll just compare those few products. So that's a really quick and dirty summary, but I will say if you click on it, my contact information is in the top. So again, consider this a soft launch. It literally went up today on the PSA website. So if you have new products or recommendations on use, feel free to send them to me and we'll see what we can do. But there is more to come in terms of a video tutorial and fact sheet.
Yep. Thank you, Donna. Really, really amazing. And I will say the focus group taught us a lot, sent us down different roads. And again, I think the entire team pitched in to get this thing done. So thank you. Okay, so other interesting things that have come out recently, the Spanish language podcast series has 6 Spanish language podcasts. You can see here, training new workers, impact of the FSMA PSR on small produce growers. Essentially, all of these topics are one of our SLEAs interviewing somebody about the topic. Lovely introduction, standard introduction. According to Mariana, I don't know if you want to jump in, according to Mariana, the most accessed one is the first one. We do have an evaluation that goes with this, but oddly, I found out this morning, nobody has actually clicked on the very short, it's like 5 questions just to find out if this was worth the effort to do. Certainly, Yuli Davis, Mariana, Laura Cunha, Laura Pineda, a lot of people put work into making sure this got done. Anybody want to chime in and say anything about it?
Well, I would just say we're inviting anyone who wants to listen to us talking about different food safety topics in Spanish to join and click on the links. And if you can leave a comment on the survey. Yeah, the one that has been most popular is the training new workers in food safety. Is like half of the visits have been to that podcast. But yeah, give us your comments about this podcast and let's see if they're working for their intention and goal.
I think the most important stuff is to share it with anybody you know that might be interested. That's the key thing. I think that's all getting podcasts in the hands of the people that they were intended for, right? So thank you all for that. I loved listening to them. It's great practice for me listening, but it was a great project. And again, funded in collaboration with Local Food Safety Collaborative. Just so you guys know, they range in time from 25 to 25 minutes. And so they're not super long, but please do share them. Other things that are going on. This is probably, boy, what an enormous lift. But this one I think is going to be such a valuable resource to our Spanish language trainers, Spanish language growers. This is going to be huge. And again, this is one of those ones where a lot of the folks from the team really put in effort. So I'm going to give credit to Davis for showing up on a call a long time ago, probably a year ago, and saying, we really got to get the preamble translated. Can't we do something to get the preamble translated? Because there's a lot of good questions in there that would give people a lot of better information than just the PSR. So we went ahead and asked for some funding to get this done. Laura Acuna did the translation. As you know, within our team, we require a secondary translation, which normally we would hire out to a third party, but lucky for us, maybe not lucky for Yuli, but lucky for us, Yuli had just joined the team. And Laura Acuna's like, hey, we haven't tainted her yet. We can make her be the secondary reviewer. And so she agreed to do that. I think what I've heard from Yuli, and then Yuli, you can chime in here, was that it actually was a really good introduction to understanding produce safety because she had to read all the questions and understand them and check the translation. We're super happy this is up. This is newly posted as well, but a really great resource for everything, you know, that one question that gets asked all the time. What's the difference between a sprout and a microgreen? That answer's in here, right? So all these little nitpicky questions that show up in the preamble now are folks that that read Spanish and speak Spanish can have access to. Anybody? Laura Acuna, Yuli, anybody want to say anything?
Yes, just that it was although Julie and I led this project, it was really a team effort. Rob, the other Spanish language extension associates, Don, other PSA team members and people outside the PSA. And we really hope that our trainers find this translation useful. It's intended to a wide international audience. And as it is always the case, the English version is the official version. We use the same terminology that is in the Spanish translation of the produce safety rule. And Betsy, this is a 513-page PDF document. So to help with the navigation, Rob hyperlinked the table of contents. So that's a really useful feature. And finally, you can use it. You can find this resource in the PSA Spanish language website under the FISMA tab.
Ooh, thank you. Yeah, so a couple of things. You mentioned Rob's name. I should have mentioned Rob's name right up front. The formatting that goes into this and everything, just a lot of work, hyperlinking, making it user-friendly. He's just fantastic about that. And also, as is always the case, I get a call from Laura saying, we have a problem. Right? Words are always a problem, and trying to make lists of things that we want to fix and talk to FDA about when it comes to different word usages and how words in Spanish are not the same from country to country and how we navigate that. So as always, I really appreciate the diligence and the patience that it takes to do this well. So a shout out to all of you for that effort. And very excited to have this one done. This was wow, what is this, more than a year in the making? That's 500 pages. That's a lot of work. So thank you, Laura, for leading the charge on that. All right. Worker training videos. I know you guys know these are up. I do want to highlight that the Chinese should be coming along and being posted soon. That one is through the gauntlet and there's 2 more coming. So again, we continue to plod these forward. Just wanted to highlight that. More than words. Okay, so you've heard us talk about this in the past. The good news is these are going to be done in Spanish and we're very close to posting these. So you'll see these shortly. And again, shout out to Rob for making some changes in the illustrations to translate he's not translating the words, let me be clear about that. He's making sure that the translated words that are in the pictures are actually look good and is doing that manipulation for us. So shout out to the SLEAs for getting those notes translated. Also really important because we're also streamlining the English and the Spanish notes to one another. what we've learned as a team, and it's taken us, I won't say we're fast learners on this, but when you write something in English, it may sound fantastic until your colleague has to translate it into Spanish. And then it doesn't sound so fantastic. So I want to say that our SLEAs oftentimes catch our bad English when they're switching to translate it into their Spanish. So again, it's a great thing to see the changes that get done, and it makes them all better. So you'll see those shortly. These you've seen for a long time, because these are COVID-19 changes. COVID-19, we're almost 4 years away from when COVID-19 showed up. Why am I bringing these up? I am bringing these up because these slides are available to you, and we've been getting some questions. So we wanted to touch base on this since we had everybody together. What does this look like? So enforcement discretion policy that was active during COVID-19 ended November 7th of 2023. And what that was that the farms must confirm that they had that rolling average of total food sales, but they didn't have to follow who they were selling it to. Remember, it's both money and qualified end user. And so now they have to keep records of sales to qualified end users starting in 2024. That is now. We are in January 29th of 2024, so they should start doing that. So the exemption beyond 2025, if they keep it in 2024, they'll have a number in 2025, and then they can add 2025 and 2026 to get to that 3-year average. All right. And that's an important thing to note. I want to stop here and see if Don wants to say anything, because some people might ask, okay, well, the exemption ended in November of 2023, and I'm just starting in 2024. So, so what do I do if somebody shows up and says, where's your average here for your qualified end users? And so we just wanted to say there was no requirement, again, to collect records in 2021, 2022, or 2023 due to that enforcement discretion, and that 500 total sales was never under the enforcement discretion, right? And so as of now for 2022, it's $182. As we know, we tend to get the adjusted updates in March or April of every year. So FDA tends to put those out in March of April to give you that 2023. Don, do you want to add anything in here?
I think you hit it just beautifully. It's just so confusing that COVID-19 has been over and we're all restarting our lives, and this enforcement discretion has gone away, but it takes a leg to build up that 3-year rolling average, or even 1 year as a partial basis. And true fact there, Lara Strawn, you're probably not the only one waiting for COVID 2024 to roll around, but it is an ongoing issue. But in terms of the public health response and the formal public health response and the latitude that was given to growers, so there's just a lag period, and being aware of that and being aware that the inspectors are talking about at consortium, at NECAFs, coming up at NCR. There are sessions about what do we do with the enforcement discretion and the re-up of qualified exemptions. They may be asking for records. It's also important for us to know what are the records that they're asking for out of courtesy and out of conversation, and which ones are actually required records.
Yep.
Can I answer Teresa's?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So if a person has kept records, they are more than welcome to volunteer those records and use them as a basis. The language, as I understand FDA's release, is that they're not required they're not required to have kept those records. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So if they share them, that's up to them. To us, the most important part is they recognize what they're required to have. All right. Okay, I'm gonna move along. Our next educators call. Remember I told you we're gonna start winding those down, but no, we've already got 2 plans, so we'll keep going. The next educators group call is gonna be how can a farmer prepare for the FDA traceability rule, FSMA 204. This is gonna be led by Matt Raguski. Did I make that? Raguski of iFoods DS. Don's been organizing this. A registration link will be shared by email through the educators group call mailing list. So we will get that to everybody. I do want to turn a little bit to see because this is our last real slide. We'll move to the closing slide here. Here's our PSA website. As you know, you can get it in English or Spanish, and you can certainly follow us on social media. And I do want to look. I saw Norman said that Yuli rocks. I agree with that. That's a good statement. I don't think COVID-19 is over. I think we're all just subject to getting COVID-19 in some rotation. I was a little unhappy when my husband told me last night that it turns out your chances of getting long COVID do not change the more times you get COVID. So it's not like if you get it and get over it and don't get long COVID, you're less likely to get long COVID. You still have the same risk, so that's not good. It does seem that your long COVID risk goes up the more severe your reaction is to COVID. So get vaccinated and get boosted, everyone, so that we can not get super sick. Okay, no offense to the rest of the team. Thanks, Norman. No offense taken. Does anybody from the team have, yeah, liar, pants on fire, Don Steckel. Anybody else from the team want to say anything? We're going to get you guys out of here a little early. Any other questions? You can unmute yourself. We can give you the power to unmute. You can leave a question in the chat box and we'll cover it. I do want to say this, that if PSA really does go the way of the dodo, I will have nothing but pride, if that's not saying too much, about the work this team has done, the effort that gets put in, certainly the work we do with our collaborators, all of you, and to all the good things that have happened. So sometimes things run their course, and that's okay. But we're hopeful, and we're gonna keep trudging forward in this year, and hopefully we can get some funding to continue. But no sadness about the effort that's been done. It's been a lot of fun, and a lot of good things have been done. So with that, if the team has nothing to say, I'm just gonna say thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and be well.